What if everything we thought we knew about the start of human civilization is wrong? Imagine this. Thousands of years ago, long before the pyramids, before ancient Greece or Rome, there was a mysterious civilization that claimed they didn't build their knowledge alone. According to them, powerful beings came down from the sky, yes, from the sky, and taught them science, math, farming, even how to build cities. Sounds like a movie, right? But this isn't some made-up story. These claims are written on real clay tablets from the ancient Sumerians, one of the very first civilizations in history. These people lived over 5,000 years ago in what is now Iraq, and they recorded everything they knew on tablets that still exist today. And in those writings, they kept mentioning the same mysterious name, the Anunnaki, beings from the heavens, who shared advanced knowledge and possibly changed the course of human history forever. So, were the Anunnaki just ancient myths, or could these stories actually be hiding a forgotten truth? To understand the mystery of the Anunnaki, we first need to look at the people who told their story, the Sumerians. The Sumerians lived over 5,000 years ago in a place called Mesopotamia, which is in modern-day Iraq. Back then, this land was dry, dusty, and tough to survive in. But somehow, the Sumerians didn't just live there. They built huge cities, created amazing inventions, and completely changed the world. They were the first people in history to invent writing. They didn't use paper. They used soft clay and carved wedge-shaped symbols into it. This writing system, called cuneiform, helped them record everything, from trade and farming to stories about gods and the stars. But that's just the beginning. The Sumerians also built advanced irrigation systems to bring water from rivers into their cities and farms. They designed massive temples called ziggurats, huge pyramid-like towers made of bricks. They created laws, used math, tracked the stars, and even made calendars to plan their farming seasons. They lived in busy cities like Ur, Uruk, and Eridu, filled with markets, schools, homes, and temples. These were not small villages. Some cities had tens of thousands of people living in them. That's like a modern town, thousands of years ago. Everything about the Sumerians shows us that they were far ahead of their time. But where did all this knowledge come from? That's where things start to get mysterious. Because, according to their own records, the Sumerians didn't figure it all out on their own. They said they were taught by powerful beings from the sky. And that's where the story of the Anunnaki begins. So, who exactly were these mysterious beings the Sumerians talked about? They called them the Anunnaki. The name means something like those who came from the heavens, or those of royal blood. According to the ancient clay tablets, the Anunnaki weren't just regular gods you pray to. They were powerful beings who came down from the sky and helped shape human civilization. The Sumerians believed the Anunnaki shared knowledge with humans, how to grow food, build cities, understand the stars, and even make laws. These weren't just small tips, they were advanced lessons that helped the Sumerians become one of the most powerful civilizations of their time. The stories even describe the Anunnaki as walking among people, giving advice, solving problems, and sometimes even starting disasters when they were angry. Three of the most important Anunnaki were Anu, the leader, ruler of the heavens. He stayed far away watching from above. Enlil, the strict one, in charge of air and storms. He often made big decisions and didn't always like how humans behaved. Enki, the kind one, god of water and wisdom. He cared about humans and taught them useful skills like farming, irrigation, and building. In one famous story, humans were becoming too loud and troublesome, and Enlil wanted to wipe them out with a giant flood. But Enki warned a human and helped him survive, just like the story of Noah in the Bible. And this story was written hundreds of years before the Bible. These weren't just simple fairy tales. The tablets describe the Anunnaki in great detail, what they did, how they acted, and the changes they made to the world. But here's the big question. Were the Anunnaki just made-up gods, or could these stories be based on something real? Because if they were just myths, why do they sound so much like real events and real people? And this is only the beginning. What comes next might surprise you even more. Here's where things get even more strange. The Sumerians told stories about powerful beings from the sky, giant floods, and humans being saved by a kind god. But guess what? These same kinds of stories show up in other ancient cultures too. In the Bible, there's the story of Noah's Ark, a massive flood sent to wipe out humanity, with one man warned in advance and told to build a boat. In Hindu stories, there's also a great flood, and again, a man is warned and saved. Even in ancient Greek myths, there are powerful gods who live above, visit the earth, and share knowledge. How could so many different cultures in different parts of the world all have such similar stories? Maybe it's just a coincidence, or maybe they're all remembering the same thing in different ways. Think about it. If ancient people saw something amazing, something they didn't understand, how would they explain it? They might call it a god, or say it came from the heavens. Over time, the story could change and grow, but the main idea would stay the same. This is why some people believe the myths of the Anunnaki and similar stories from other cultures might actually be based on real events, just told in different ways. And the more we dig into these ancient records, the more connections we find. But that's nothing compared to what we're about to uncover next. Because the Sumerians didn't just tell stories, they left behind actual proof, records of space, planets, and the stars, knowledge they should never have had at that time. And it's that knowledge that has left modern scientists scratching their heads. Here's where things really start to blow people's minds. The Sumerians didn't just tell stories about sky beings. They actually studied the sky in ways that seem almost impossible for their time. They lived over 5,000 years ago. No telescopes, no satellites, no fancy tools. And yet, they knew things about space that modern scientists didn't figure out until much, much later. For example, they knew the difference between stars and planets. They correctly identified Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn as planets, ones that move differently from stars in the night sky. That might not sound like a big deal now, but back then, that's incredible. They even tracked Venus's cycle, how it appears in the sky as a morning star and an evening star. They recorded this in detail on what's now called the Venus tablet of Ammisaduqa, and the timing they wrote down. Still accurate today, but how? How did they get this information? Most historians say the Sumerians must have watched the sky very carefully for hundreds of years, passing down notes from one generation to the next. That's possible, but others say it doesn't fully add up. How could they be so precise without any modern tools? How could they understand complex cycles and patterns that take years, sometimes decades, to notice? Even their math was advanced. They used a system based on 60, which is why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle today. This system helped them calculate time, angles, and star positions with amazing accuracy. It's almost like someone taught them. And guess who the Sumerians said gave them this knowledge? The Anunnaki. In their own writings, they say these sky beings shared secrets of astronomy, mathematics, and calendars, things that helped the Sumerians grow strong and successful. So now the mystery gets deeper. Did the Sumerians figure all of this out on their own, just by watching the stars? Or did they learn it from someone or something else? We've seen how the Sumerians had knowledge that seems far ahead of their time. But now, let's ask a big question. Did they really discover all of it on their own? Some historians believe they did. They say the Sumerians were just extremely smart and patient, watching the skies for years, writing things down, and slowly figuring things out. That could explain some of it. But there's another idea. What if the Sumerians didn't start from scratch? What if they learned from someone else? Another group that had already discovered these things. Let's look at a place called Göbekli Tepe. It's an ancient site in modern-day Turkey, and it's over 11,000 years old. That's twice as old as the Sumerians. It has giant stone pillars, advanced designs, and shows signs of a complex society. But according to history, people back then were supposed to be simple hunters and gatherers, not builders of massive monuments. So how did they do it? And more importantly, could some knowledge from that time have been passed down, slowly, until it reached the Sumerians? That's what some experts believe. They call this idea cultural diffusion, when knowledge spreads from one group to another over time. The Sumerians lived in a busy area with traders, travelers, and visitors coming from all directions. It's possible they picked up ideas from older civilizations, or even from travelers who carried secrets passed down from ancient times. And remember, the Sumerians themselves said they didn't come up with everything alone. They credited the Anunnaki. So now we have two possibilities. Either the Sumerians were genius skywatchers who learned everything by themselves, or they got help from earlier cultures, or maybe even from the mysterious sky beings in their stories. And the next section digs even deeper into that possibility, because soon, someone would take this mystery in a completely new direction and start a worldwide debate. Up until now, we've talked about the Sumerians, their advanced knowledge, and their stories of sky beings. Most people assume these were just myths, creative ways to explain things they didn't understand. But then came a man named Zecharia Sitchin. In the 1970s, he took a bold step. He looked at the ancient Sumerian tablets and said something shocking. What if the Anunnaki weren't just gods, but visitors from another planet? Sitchin believed the Sumerians were describing real beings, not imaginary ones. He said the Anunnaki came from a planet called Nibiru, a planet that moves on a long path through our solar system and only comes close to Earth every few thousand years. According to Sitchin, these beings came to Earth, taught the Sumerians science, math, farming, and technology, and even helped build the first cities. He also claimed that the Sumerian texts described flying machines, advanced tools, and even knowledge of genetics. To him, it all pointed to one idea: the Anunnaki were not from Earth. Now, most scientists and language experts don't agree with Sitchin. They say he mistranslated many words and stretched the meaning of the tablets to fit his theory. They believe the stories are just symbolic, not real history. But here's the interesting part. Even though Sitchin's ideas are rejected by most historians, his books became super popular. Why? Because he asked the same question many people were already thinking. How did the Sumerians know so much? His theory might sound like science fiction, but it got people talking. And even if he was wrong about the aliens, his work reminded the world of something important. The Sumerians were different. They knew things, and the source of that knowledge is still a mystery. So now, we're left wondering, were the Anunnaki just ancient gods made up by storytellers? Or could the Sumerians have been remembering something real, something we don't fully understand yet? Even if we don't believe the alien theory, there's still something we can't ignore: the things the Sumerians left behind. We're not just talking about stories written on clay tablets. The Sumerians also made detailed artworks, carvings, and symbols that raise a lot of questions. One of the most talked about artifacts is something called Cylinder Seal VA-243. It's a small stone with carvings that some people believe shows the solar system, with the sun in the center and planets around it. Now here's the strange part. This seal appears to show all the planets, even ones that weren't discovered until modern times. How could the Sumerians have known that thousands of years ago? Some experts say the seal is just a symbol, and that people are reading too much into it. Others believe it's clear evidence that the Sumerians had knowledge they shouldn't have had, unless someone told them. And that's not the only mystery. In carvings and statues found across ancient Mesopotamia, we see images of the Anunnaki that don't look like ordinary humans. Some show them with wings, strange clothing, or even holding what looks like tools or devices. One carving even shows a being holding something that looks like a watch or bracelet, something that doesn't seem to belong in that time period. Again, mainstream scholars say these are just artistic symbols. But others ask, what if they're not just art? What if they're memories of real people or real events, passed down through generations? And don't forget, the Sumerians themselves said they were taught by beings from the sky. That's not a modern theory. It's what they believed thousands of years ago. So whether the Anunnaki were real visitors, advanced humans, or just mythological figures, the mystery is still there. Why do so many ancient symbols and stories hint at something more, something we can't fully explain? With all these strange stories and mysterious clues, you might be wondering, why don't more historians talk about the Anunnaki? Why isn't this taught in schools? The answer is simple, but also kind of frustrating. Most historians and scientists like to stick to facts, things they can see, measure, and prove. And that makes sense. In history, it's important not to jump to wild conclusions without strong evidence. So when it comes to stories about gods from the sky or alien visitors, most experts say that sounds like a myth, not real history. And they're not totally wrong. A lot of ancient stories are symbolic. They use big ideas and dramatic tales to explain natural events, like floods or stars in the sky. But here's the problem. Some of these stories include real knowledge that the people shouldn't have had back then, like knowing how planets move, or using complex math, or building huge cities before anyone else. And that's where it gets tricky. If a historian says, maybe there's more to these stories, they risk being laughed at or called a conspiracy theorist. So most of them just avoid the topic completely. But should we? Because history has already surprised us before. Not long ago, experts believed that humans couldn't build large stone structures 11,000 years ago. Then came the discovery of Göbekli Tepe, and it proved everyone wrong. So what if something like that happens again? What if the Sumerians were telling the truth, just in a way that sounds strange to us today? Maybe we shouldn't ignore these old stories so quickly. Maybe we should keep asking questions. So, after everything we've learned, the advanced cities, the strange tablets, the sky gods, and the possible hidden knowledge, one big question remains. What if the Anunnaki were real? Now, let's be clear. There's no solid proof that aliens came to Earth thousands of years ago. There's no flying saucer buried in the ground, no spaceship hidden in a museum. But something strange did happen in ancient Sumer. A civilization appeared out of nowhere, building cities, creating writing, tracking the stars, and doing things other cultures wouldn't do for thousands of years. And when you ask the Sumerians where they got all this knowledge, they didn't take credit for it. They said they were taught by beings who came from the sky. Were those just stories? Or could they be distorted memories of something real, like visitors from another culture, or maybe even somewhere else? We may never know for sure. But here's what we do know. The Sumerians were brilliant. Their knowledge shaped the world. And their stories about the Anunnaki, the stars, the past, still puzzle experts today. And that's what makes this topic so powerful. It forces us to ask, how much do we really know about the past? Could ancient people have discovered things we've forgotten? Are we missing pieces of human history that could change everything? The story of the Anunnaki isn't just about myths or aliens. It's about keeping an open mind, asking questions, looking deeper. Because sometimes, the biggest mysteries are buried not in the future, but in our ancient past. And who knows? The next tablet we discover might just change the way we see human history. Forever.